Well, hopefully this little video will remind you of what a year we had last year. Many of you have probably forgotten the hot weather already. It seems that we do tend to forget the weather very quickly, how it was, although I've not heard anybody complain or say in the last few weeks that we didn't get any summer last year. That's normally the thing that you hear every time you go into a shop locally. But indeed, 2022 was a remarkable year, the hottest and driest year since 1976, and personally I think it beat 1976, and it certainly felt that way. Crops dried out, fields dried out, hedges died. In some parts of Nottinghamshire at least, it was quite a scene of devastation. As a result, invertebrates will have been affected, and affected greatly, and certainly the number of some species in the autumn, especially moths, were well down. But the trouble is, when the vegetation dies, the food plant and food source for a number of larvae and caterpillars also goes with it, so they starve as well. But hopefully there'll be some things around to make 2023 another fabulous year. We did manage to record some fabulous species last year, some great days as well, some lovely weather, so put your sunscreen on and your sunglasses, pour yourself a cup of tea or something stronger, and grab a packet of biscuits, because hopefully I've put together at least a snapshot of what 2022 had to offer to the viewers of this channel. Hopefully we'll have the same in 12 months' time. And now I'd best get back and put all this together. I can't do it sat here talking to this chap. As much as I like him, he's like myself though. He's not very talkative, and he's terrible with company. Aren't you? Told you. It's lovely to hear the skylarks. Good numbers in the Eakin area. There'll be good numbers of something else in a few weeks on this spot where I'm lying now. In another few weeks, this green area of meadowland will be transformed into a carpet of vibrant yellow dandelions. You don't believe me, do you? I'll use the magic of television. 1, 2, 3. See? You didn't believe me, did you? You thought I was lying. Would I lie to you? This is now the end of April, the very last day of April to be exact. As you can see, we're now lying in a carpet of beautiful yellow dandelions. What could be better? And here at Eakin, on this fabulous northward facing meadowland, there's a welcome home for the dandelions. You'd think there'd be rabbits here by the million, wouldn't you? But no, just a few down at the bottom where the old railway line used to run. Otherwise, this is it. This is a fabulous bit of meadowland, and it's always been meadowland. The adjacent fields that run off to the right, lower down, also used to be meadowlands. In fact, curlew used to breed here many years ago. But each spring, this particular meadowland just north of the village of Eakin produces a fabulous display of dandelions. I just love dandelions. But it's sad to see many of our roadside verges have already been cut. They're all in the process of being cut, when the verges are only as high as these dandelions. These dandelion flowers are little more than 6 inches high. Most are shorter than that. I wish we didn't continue to cut our roadside verges. And here is the larval case of Coleophora artemisicolella. Can't see it, can you? This is why this has to be one of the hardest, if not the hardest, Coleophora larval case to find. You see how you've got these individual seed cases from the individual flowers of last year, and in order to find the larval case of Coleophora artemisicolella, you're looking for one of these seed cases attached to another seed case, which is there, look. See how that seed case is attached to that one, whereas the others are all attached to the stem by a little stalk. Nature's so bloody clever. The caterpillar of Coleophora artemisicolella hollows out one of these seed cases during its development and lives in it. Perfectly camouflaged. Amazing. And it then feeds, it attaches itself to all the seed heads and feeds on the contents of them seed heads. Normally, on this channel, you're used to me showing you dull brown moths. Not at all like this one. And here's one of the main entrances to the nest. This nest is flush totally with the floor here. You would never tell that there was a wood ant's nest here. This is not typical of the species. The fact that these ants have remained here for hundreds of years is probably only down to the fact that the woodland is very private and well protected. The owner is very protective and wary of people coming to see these ants. That's a good thing, I think. Maybe with normal forestry practices, this nest wouldn't have survived either. Hopefully these ants will be here for another 100 years. They are fantastic species, and it's a shame that they're not more widely available for people to see in Nottinghamshire. These are difficult things to find. You have to be systematic about your search. That's very clear. You could just strike it lucky, randomly searching, but location of the tree is key to where it is sited in partial shade or shade. And this larva is about 10 mil long. It's a 3rd instar larva. It's just more green than the one that I have at home. So there we are. I will now continue my search. Now I've found one. They are quite obvious when you see one. One of the things or aspects of this walk that I like is behind me. Especially this time of year, yet all year round they're really nice. These weeping willows. Beautiful trees. I think this is the only such stretch of weeping willows that I know of at the side of the Trent. On this walk here you've got the river on the right hand side as you look at me, and on the left hand side there's North Muscombe Lake, which is a Notts Wildlife Trust reserve. This really is a super spot to come and have a wander for an hour or so. I don't mean to be rude, It's that you should be looking at, not my finger. This is a tawny pinion. Now, this is a rude gesture. This is a fabulous and beautiful piece of Nottinghamshire woodland. How many of you knew that somewhere like this existed in Nottinghamshire? The plant, the leafy plant that you can see behind me, or to the side of me, is wild garlic. Beautiful smell. Although if you don't like garlic, you'll think it's bloody awful. The flowers are just starting to appear, they're just starting to break through now. In another couple of weeks, given favourable weather, this will be a picture. And the white flowers of wild garlic will take over from the white flowers of wood anemone. This is an absolutely fabulously beautiful spot. I love it. And just listen to that. What better accompaniment could you have? It's truly beautiful. Woodland is, especially when it's carpeted with wood anemones, as Wellow Park is here, coupled with the aromatic smell of wild garlic, and that's a smell that will just become stronger and stronger. We're only at the relative beginning of spring, just over a week into it, astronomically. Each year, our springs get a little bit earlier. Bluebells in an English woodland are one of the greatest spectacles we have in the UK, or greatest spectacles of the natural world. The natural world always providing the best spectacles despite the best efforts of man. Told you before, you can't beat nature. Nature has it all sussed, and nature knows best. If man was to have created this, it wouldn't be this beautiful carpet of the most perfect blue, mauve or purple. It'd probably be something more gaudy. The flowers would be double or triple bloomed. It wouldn't be so perfect as this. And of course, bluebells, like all of the early flowering woodland flowers, all flower before the leaves form in the canopy and the shade becomes too great. But saying that, here at Lown Wood, where there's no management, there's been no management whatsoever, just the occasional thin tree, because all these trees that grow here are all tall and narrow. It is an incredibly light woodland. There's no parts of Lown Wood that are dark and depressing. It's just perfect. Now, I was just walking up section D, and I thought, that looks strange. You may be thinking, well, what looks strange? That in the centre, because amongst these stones, if I move these stones out of the way, you may well see now that this is not all it appears to be. It's no stone or it's no little pebble. If I turn it over, you may well be able to see now, it's got legs. That dark circular bit at the front is the pronotum, or the thorax, and just between the middle pair of legs there is the rostrum. This is a tick, and this one is full fed. Beautiful, isn't it? This is probably the week, maybe into next week, but this is the week, I think, where gorse looks at its absolute best. And here on the former Calverton Colliery site, it looks absolutely beautiful. Now, some parts of Calverton Colliery site, namely the higher bit, has had some work done to it, some restoration work, but really it's been done that well you wouldn't have a clue there's been done at all. It's all done completely in keeping with everything else. There's no mass areas of woodland plantings, woods that have been overplanted with tens of thousands of whips, the usual kind of stuff that you get on pit tops. This, from what I've seen so far, and we'll go round a few more of the pit tops during the course of the year, is quite unusual. I'm amazed to find 4 larval webs of small egger here today. Very pleased. Obviously it's been here all the time, even in those years where it went missing. It must, like so many species, the moth must be able to remain at a site or in an area at low densities. These are very conspicuous though. To be honest, you could scan most of the fields with binoculars and pick these up. I was surprised to find this larval web though, because this bit of hedge wasn't cut last year. This is where I found the larval web last year, and it had been cut last year. This is 2 years growth. There's all last year's growth, and the new growth from this year is just appearing. And it's quite a long stretch of hedgerow this, and I was beginning to wonder whether the moth actually prefers more upkept hedgerows rather than hedgerows like this. I suspect they do. I suspect that the density of a cut hedge is perhaps beneficial. Obviously, with living at such high densities as this, there'll be a high degree of parasitisation, and that's usually evident in a brood, as I mentioned before, by those individuals that are particularly small and far smaller than the rest. As you can see, or might be able to see, these are all pretty uniform in size. Hopefully this moth will continue to do well. It seems to be doing well. It seemed to have a good year in 2020. This looks as though it's going to be another one for the small egger, and that's good to see. Well, success in section A. I just measured this. It's well constricted at the back, so we'll need, this is going to be 20 plus. Fair bit, but well, about another quarter of section A to go through, and this one's in prime position for being squashed. But we can measure that accurately from the front there. At that length there, it looks as though it's 18 mil, but now it's just starting to stretch now. But when you add on about 3 mil at the back, it will take it over 20. We just need a bit of movement. And for it to keep on a straight path, ideally, but there we go. Now you can see that is a 22 mil larva. allowing for a touch more expansion and straightening out. So, a 22mm larva in section A. It's a nice, promising start. You see, you didn't believe me, did you? This beautiful butterfly, which might fly at any minute, is a silver-washed fritillary. Such a fabulous thing, this rich, fulvous brown background to both the forewings and the hind wings, with an arrangement of spots of various sizes. And this is a male who's starting to get a little bit flighty. You can tell this is a male because of those long dashes on the forewings. It's a cracker, isn't it? Now I'll try and hold this steady. Try and get it a bit closer. You'll see what an impressive species this is. This is no small beetle. It's a stunner. In Nottinghamshire, it's rare. Virtually all of the county records, except maybe one, and there's not been many county records either, have come from the Sherwood Forest area. It's quite fitting that such a beetle, so colourful as this, is so rare. It makes the finding of this species all the more memorable and enjoyable. What a beauty. Just walking down from Blackpool Plantation towards Clipston Old Quarter, and I was remarking to Nick and Samantha Brownlee, who I'm with today, that there was a honeybee nest in an old oak just at the back of me. Little did I realise that there's a swarm of bees less than 3 feet from me. Now, I'm not going to do the really silly thing, apart from standing right next to the swarm of bees, of putting my hand into the swarm, showing that they won't sting. I'm not entirely stupid. But it's quite interesting that there's almost 2 swarms. There's the main swarm here that undoubtedly holds the queen. At the far end of this branch, might be out of shot, there's a smaller swarm, and they're all now literally making a beeline for this larger swarm. There's lots of not coming and going. Most of the bees seem to be arriving and joining the swarm rather than leaving. This is quite remarkable. This is an ambition of mine. It always has been since I was a child. I remember several times missing swarms that were close to where I lived, and I was always a few minutes too late. This is my very first experience of a swarm of wild honeybees. Yet again, the wonderful Sherwood Forest has helped me achieve an ambition in nature. It may not be many people's idea of an ambition to be sat within 2-3 feet of a swarm of probably 10,000 or so honeybees. That nature's remarkable, nevertheless. This has to be one of the most fantastic sights we have in UK natural history. Many years ago, our farms were smaller. The fields of those farms were considerably smaller than what they are today. Modern farming has gone big. Bigger machinery, bigger fields, less hedgerows, and less meadowland like this. At one time, every single farm diversified quite a bit. They all usually had some cattle and maybe some sheep as well. So they had pasture land or grassland or meadowland, call it what you will. Either way, Before the days of herbicidal sprays and pesticides, all those fields were like this. Grassland in Nottinghamshire like this, and grassland that's so flower rich like this is now rare. It's difficult to find. Thankfully, this area of meadowland that I featured before at Eakin is still here. And talk about flower rich, and of course anywhere that's flower rich is always rich in invertebrates. One of the joys of recording invertebrates, and in recording those invertebrates regularly on a single patch or an area, is that occasionally new species turn up. And when you have a new species in the form of the majestic purple emperor butterfly, then I know I've featured this species several times before, but it really deserves to be given plenty of coverage. All my life, this butterfly has been a dream, but never dreamt that one day it would be in Nottinghamshire, and that it would increase its range and move into Nottinghamshire. Breeding butterflies years ago in the 1980s when I was young. What I'm filming now, to be found in the wild of Nottinghamshire, was fictitious. It was the stuff of dreams. And yet here we are. There are now known to be at least 5 purple emperor larvae that are now in their last instar and reaching quite a size, as you can see here at Clipsnell Quarter. And I'm going to try and find all 5. It's a thing to celebrate. Success is rarely celebrated. The butterflying press tend to annually put out releases of doom and gloom, species decline, when really that's not the true picture. Not all species are in decline, and here's one that isn't. Well, after about 20 minutes searching, I've been looking at brambles and I've found some. I've found there's about 17 here, not all are visible in the screen. There's a group there, look, and then just underneath this flower, if I move this flower, you can see that there's a group just there where my finger's hanging down, and there's another one further down, and there's 2 on a leaf just off screen. They're smaller than what I thought. These range from about 5 to 7 mil long, and these look like second instar larvae to me. I was expecting them to be larger and a bit more obvious, although these, I must admit, were obvious as I slowly walked by, just scanning the top of this bramble. And that's the food plant that I've been checking more than anything else, really. They do lay on a range of plants, but bramble has come up trumps. Excellent. Well, just look at this. What a stance. What a beetle. While you listen to this and me rattle on, I'm going to see if I can get some photographs. This is the lesser stag beetle, but what an incredible pose. Fantastic. Just walking down towards the more heathland area. In fact, I'm just cutting on to the military path. Happened to notice this super beetle. The scientific name for lesser stag beetle is Dorcas parallelepipedus. Now there's a name and a half for you to get your tongue around, but it's a super species. I do find butterfly migration especially interesting. Even when I was doing birds years ago, it was the visible migration of birds that really took over my interest. I sort of moved away from chasing rarities in Nottinghamshire to recording visible migration. Migration is just an absolute marvellous spectacle. Catch it on a good day, whether it's birds or, more rarely, butterflies. It's an incredible few hours or a day. Not to everyone's taste or their cup of tea, I suppose. They would look upon it as time stood around being time wasted. And that's understandable if your time's limited. I'm lucky because mine isn't. One of the things I enjoy about it is the fact nobody else does it. People aren't aware that that red admiral painted lady briefly going through the garden could be extremely significant on a national scale. That's how the big movements that we had of painted ladies in the last sort of 20-30 years have been picked up. You could be out in the field, notice a couple of butterflies hurtle past you. Butterflies that are in territory or local to the area don't do that. If it's painted lady or red admiral and it's hurtling right through relatively low to the ground, it means some migration's happening. Sometimes, though, you can race out to somewhere like Eakin to a good vantage point and there'll be nothing. That's happened many times. And here's a red admiral now. It's a female here, pausing to lay on a nettle. And away she goes, look. Going through there and off. I'm going to see if I can find that egg. Well, there's quite a few clips that I'd forgotten about and a few moments that I'd forgotten about when compiling this video. So, what to look forward to in part 2? Well, we've been thinking about that. Part 1's covered pretty much the first 6 months of the year, so it seems only logical that part 2 covers the second 6 months of the year. That's when the summer in Nottinghamshire became drier than ever before. What a summer it was, and what a year it ultimately turned out to be. Didn't it? It's still not talking to me.